Welcome to the Unscripted SEO Interview Podcast. Yes, it's 100% unscripted, 100% unrehearsed, 100% unedited, and 100% real. I'm your host, Mark A Preston, and my guest today joining us is the Managing Director of Quirky Digital, an agency that believes they're not just your average SEO agency and always go ahead of the curve. Please welcome Liam Quirk.
Perfect, Mark. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. I know you've had a long wait list of people wanting to get on, so appreciate it.
No problem. Well, for the people watching this podcast and listening to it who doesn't know anything about you, could you give us like a tour of when it was you started in the industry and how you got into the industry and what you've been doing from then till now?
Yeah, perfect. So I started in the industry back in high school. So my uncle was a big influence on me. So he was actually in the SEO industry himself. He was doing a lot of good stuff. He was doing your digital PR campaigns, your bait and switch type campaigns before they were really cool, before anyone knew about them. So he used to show me this really interesting stuff he used to create. And I had no clue what value it added to any businesses until I actually started to learn for myself, started to explore SEO. So it was probably about 10 years ago. I actually left school. So 16, left school, went straight into an apprenticeship. So as an apprentice, I had quite a lot of like background knowledge about SEO because, obviously I had, a family member that was in the industry. I started to do a lot of research about it. I started to understand how search engines work. Had no actual experience of doing it. And obviously around that time, went in, started to straight into an apprenticeship. And, pretty much the team maker to begin with. Literally doing everything from building citations. I was even writing content. I don't know why people let me write content when I used to think back on it. Some of it's actually still live, but that was back when you could just, you could get away with keyword stuff. And to be fair, didn't really have to add that much value. So that's the type of stuff I used to do. Even it's probably the back end of like Web 2.0 properties as well. So you got WordPress sites, you got Weebly, that type of stuff. That was the type of stuff I used to get tasked with, and it was it was all fun and games, and really learned the ropes. Agency I was working at used to work with very small budgets and very big budgets. So 1 minute I'd be working on like a £199 a month type campaign for your local builder in Wrexham, to working for one of the biggest hotel groups in the UK, and they used to actually get work outsourced them from other agencies. So, I was doing lots of little different things at the time. I was learning from some really good people above me, and really got a taste for SEO. So that was like how I, got into the industry. It was around that time where I started to actually create my own websites as well. So, one thing I always say to people now when I look back, probably the thing which has taught me the most about SEO is the mistakes that I've made. And I've been fortunate in the fact that I've been working on my own projects where I have been able to make mistakes. I see a lot of people now, obviously the industry, there's a lot of SEO influencers, there's a lot of people telling you that their way of doing things is the right way of doing things always. Literally, it's also see on LinkedIn at the minute. And there are people that will just react and start trying that for their clients, and it's not the right way to be spending their budget. So what I used to I had no idea that that was the reason why I was doing it. But back then I used to just set up my own websites, test my knowledge, with Elementor, with WordPress, see how far I could, push things, build citations, build, UK businesses on US citation directly websites, and try and see what type of value they would add. So used to build my own sites, used to break my own sites, and that's what gave me real foundational knowledge of SEO. And then the stuff that used to work, I then used to apply that for the agency. So yeah, I had a good grounding, to be fair. If I look at the bigger agencies in the UK, the types of agencies that probably my company's aspiring to be like, people that start off working for them do have the luxury of working with big brands, ones that, if they was to create a linkable asset, people would link to it, or they'll naturally link to the content. People want to share their content, whereas I was on the complete opposite scale. I was doing stuff on my own websites. I was working on really small websites, and I was trying to really think outside the box, really get the most I could have got out of smaller budgets. And I think that gave me good ground. And so when I actually, started to work for agencies that were bigger, it almost felt like working on the campaigns of bigger budgets become easy. So that was essentially my my SEO career up until 4 years ago. So working with local agencies, obviously based here in Liverpool and on the Wirral, and work with some big brands. And one of the most recent agency that I left, and then obviously 4 years ago, just before COVID, decided to start my own agency, which pretty much 4 years, 27th of May 2020 was the date, so almost 4 years since I actually become an official limited company and started to grow myself as a brand. And grew it from obviously being myself in the bedroom to, we're a team of 15 now, working with some decent sized brands. So I've had a bit of a journey in 10 years.
Wonderful. Now, what sort of learnings have you had from working within somebody else's agency to actually running and building your own agency? Obviously perception is very different from reality. So from your own personal views, what sort of learnings have you had?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I've not really thought about it before, like what the actual, what the perceptions were. But the way I used to look back, the main one, to be fair, is, as I've been growing up, one of the main reasons I wanted to start my own agency was because I wanted to have flexibility in my own time and my own travel. And if I'm being honest, I haven't had that now for probably 3 years since I actually started made the decision that I wanted to grow the agency. I used to have a lot more time when I used to work for somebody else, put it that way. And my perception was I could pretty much go around doing whatever I wanted. So that's the first one, and that's not just agency background. I suppose that's business in general. I think any business owner would, a lot of them do decide they want to start their own business either for financial reasons or for to fit around the personal life. And I unfortunately haven't had that luxury yet. But hopefully I'll get there and making some progress towards that. Probably the other thing I think, which I probably felt a little bit, to begin with, I've become quite overwhelmed as I started to grow an agency, and now we're working with 40 different businesses across like UK and Europe. And when I used to work for other agencies, I used to think in my head, it's all about getting the task done. It's all about getting the task done right. And it was literally, doesn't matter how long this task takes, I'll get it done. So if it's like take on a new client, do a keyword mapping exercise for them. If it, I want always force this needs to be as in depth and as well planned out as possible, so that when like the content writers within the team are working on it, they've got as much details as possible. What I started to learn, and as I said, when I worked with agencies, that was my mindset. It was like, it needs to be done right. I'd constantly tell my seniors that no, this needs to be done right. It needs to, I need to spend all the time I need to take to do this. Whereas now, obviously, when you're running an agency and you've got a lot of other clients and you've got your team doing it for you, it's not necessarily you doing it. You don't necessarily, obviously you want the 100% the best for your client and everything needs to be done correctly. But I do think in my head, this task, I predicted it to take 6 months, 6 hours, and it's ended up taking, in some cases it might take a week or 10 days. And it's like, that's the type of thing that you don't necessarily realize when you're working for somebody else. That actually impacts the profitability of a business. So that's something which, I never really thought about until obviously started to grow the agency. And then you start to realize how that can impact profitability, it can obviously impact other work that you're doing for other people as well. And yeah, nobody really wants to be a busy fool constantly, working on stuff. So I think that's the important thing. And then probably the third point is like systems and processes. So, other agencies I worked for didn't really have proper processes or systems with SEO. It was kind of, this is the budget that we've got. We're going to have to work with it. And obviously I tried to create, a lot of these agencies I used to work for with digital marketing agencies as a whole. So they'd have like, they might build a website for somebody for $5,000 and then realise they've got £500 a month left for SEO. And then you'd have to do what's needed with that £500. And that's, it works as a business model for certain types of businesses. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for the clients either. Or it's not sustainable for the members of the team that have got to work on it and deliver the results. So that's one thing that when I've actually grew the agency is our budget now are much bigger than that. But we've actually got a system, we've got a process which every client needs to follow. And obviously the system and process is suited. The budget is suited around what the client exactly needs as well. And that's the one thing that that allows us to have these systems and processes, is having them types of budgets that we can work with and having different, experts within the business that we can rely on. So my team's built up of content writers, link builders, digital PR people, client managers, obviously technical SEOs as well. So whereas previously it was just purely, it might be 2 SEO consultants working at an agency that had to do all that type of stuff themselves. So they're obviously the biggest differences that I've noticed.
Yeah, I have found over the years that depending on the type of agency, if they what I call a creative first agency, as in design, so basically many of them used to be the old, marketing agencies who's just happened to stumble into digital. I found that SEO's just been like a bolt-on. I've been into some agencies to mentor the teams and that. And I said, well, what are you doing? What have you sold? And they said, oh, we've got half a day a month. I said, but for what? No, they've just sold half a day a month. And I think nowadays, a lot of business owners and MDs and companies, they expect a lot more now. They want to see something tangible for the investment spend. And have you seen yourself with your own agency from a client perspective, that shift in mindset of expectations on clients?
100%. I think you nailed it, to be fair. I think when I started out, and it pretty much was myself as a freelancer, a consultant, I was selling time. And it was selling expertise. It was jumping on a consultancy call. And I think that's quite easy to justify, although it doesn't necessarily lead to an end result unless things are being implemented. What I've started to notice, I think, and I think businesses have become, marketing teams have become more sophisticated. Being able to track spend has become a lot easier. Analytical tools, obviously GA4, I don't want to go too in depth about GA4, but these new tools that are coming out, even your Shopify analytics, it's quite easy to track, where leads and sales are coming from. And I think because business owners have been in that, or marketing teams have been in that mindset of, I can spend X amount of money on Facebook ads and get this as a return, or spend this X amount of money in Google ads and get this return. Why can't you do the same with SEO? And I understand that it is obviously more difficult. That the funnel is obviously a lot wider, and I think how I've kind of tried to counteract it is, you can give an estimated return on investment. It's obviously it's very difficult to do. It's a very time-consuming process. But if a client asks for it, we can try and give them it based off obviously keyword volume, what the current conversion rate is on the website. Is obviously a very broad, estimation of what they can get. So we do that, but I think the best way of approaching it is actually giving them tangibles as well. So I think what you mentioned before, people have had the idea of selling themselves in a half a day. But if you actually turn that into, content, like X amount of content, a digital PR campaign, a link building campaign, to most of the clients, they don't necessarily understand the ins and outs of each of them different campaigns or how long they take. But they know what they're getting. And what they're getting is going to, form part of the outcome, which is obviously more traffic, more sales, more leads. And I think that's, as I said, I've 100% noticed the shift. And I think that, as I said, probably, even as just before COVID, I think a lot of agencies that obviously I was working with or even competing with at the time, that's what it was. It was like, we've built your website, we're doing this marketing, we're going to focus on SEO this month and social media this month, and that's not going to get you, results. But I think that's the way people used to do things. But I think, as speed tests become more competitive, your corporate businesses are now investing into SEO where they probably weren't previously as much as they are now. It's meant that people have had to step the games up.
Yeah, I do relate to you there because I've seen some businesses, especially when it comes to PR, they value the traditional publication PR more than the digital stuff. When they can sit there and hold a magazine and their brand's been featured in that magazine, it's just a thing they say, right, I've had my money's worth here, I can see it, even though they can't track a single thing. It's just that feeling of, yeah, I've spent this money and look, I can see myself in this great magazine type of thing. But I think as digital progresses and as SEO moves on, like a lot of agencies, they do go down the content route, not because it's needed and everything, that's obviously, but is when the client's paying X amount per month, they actually can show something. Whereas the old way of doing SEO, it's like throwing money at agencies and saying, well, as the graph moved, what's going, they can't physically see anything. I think is from a business perspective, it's like, well, what can I see for my money?
That's it. I think that you've hit on a really interesting point. It's like, I think if you look at digital PR now as well, I mean, as an example, I think that's obviously, we offer digital PR as a service. It's, it is so important nowadays. It does help you stand out from the crowd. Can't deny that. But I think, part of the reason that, it has grew so quickly and, it's become the sexy thing in SEO. It's because business owners will eat that stuff up. It is, you've got me featured, in the Daily Express, you've got me featured in the Standards. It's like, it goes back to what you said about the traditional PR. It's like, there's something tangible that you can see. It's rare that digital PR campaign is actually going to lead to online sales. I've seen it, don't get me wrong, where products have been mentioned, but it's quite rare. It is like, obviously, it's going to help as a wider part of the SEO strategy. That's why I think now that, most big brands online, like the fast fashion brands, they're putting ridiculous money into digital PR. Is almost not just obviously getting in that link, but then they can put on the website and say, look, we've been featured in these publications. When in reality, the product hasn't really been featured in the publications. Your SEO digital PR team created a really interesting study that's been featured in it. And so it all forms around trust. And I think I think it's going to become more and more important as well. Not just obviously the way Google looks at things, but as we're in an AI world now where it is literally you don't know who you're speaking to. You're getting emails. You don't know whether it's a person that's wrote it or not. You're seeing videos go around the internet of fakes of people. I think a lot of marketing in general is going to become about trust. I've started to see it now where businesses are, part of their marketing strategy is talking about how they've been featured in these publications and digital PR campaigns just to give them this more trust. It's crazy the way things are going.
I do think, it's always been about that. It's if you strip it right back, and me personally, if there was two websites selling exactly the same thing, one that I know about and everyone talks about and it's well known, and another one that I've never even heard of, well, I'm going to go to the one I know and trust. It's just that the thing is, it's not about SEO. It's about, the customer making the sale. Which one would you actually choose? It don't matter if you're ranking number one or not. If they think, oh, well, I don't know who they are or whatever. So the PR aspect is just a vital property within the overall sphere of SEO. I don't think that, it's about, well, getting links on top tier publications, boost your authority score so you can rank. And that for me, I've never been into all that. It's about thinking from the business perspective and everything. And I think in the industry, if we think more like that, then it sort of opens opportunities that you hadn't thought about before.
Yeah. No, that's it. I think I completely agree with that. Again, I think it's, as I said, when you're working on SEO campaigns, you can kind of become focused too heavily on keywords and rankings and, certain campaigns that even though we work on can be like a bit of a checklist exercise of, has this been done? Has this been done? Has this been done? Especially if you're working with new businesses as well that might not have invested in SEO previously. It's like you can't just checking these things. Whereas when you're working with a bigger brand, and you can probably get more into the marketing strategy as a whole, and that as to how that actually affects the SEO strategy. I think that's where you do see the crazy results.
Yeah, and I think for myself, I can see things from all sides of the coin. I've built my own agency, and I've been in positions where I'm helping companies to basically take on an agency, and I've seen the pictures that come in, and it's just like, I've told you this is what we need to do. Yeah, but we prefer to do it this way. No, we need this. And I think a lot of it is down to that sort of checklist mindset of, well, this is what we've always done and this is what works and that. But you haven't actually listened to what I need. And that kind of approach, it's, for me, listening is one of the most underrated values an SEO could have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's it. I think with obviously your local style campaigns, and it's someone that hasn't had SEO before, and it's quite clear, it's a solicitor in Liverpool wants to rank for a keyword. Vast majority that can be a pretty much checklisted exercise. Whereas if it's a bigger brand that's invested in SEO previously, or they might already have we've got a few like SaaS companies that we're working with at the minute, and they SEO just needs to be plugged in as part of their overall marketing strategy. That's where, when you listen, I think the client will give you, it will tell you the exact keywords it needs to rank for. Like, they know how people are searching for them. Whereas if someone comes to you with a blank slate out on a website, these are the type of customers that we need. It is a bit of, as I said, just become quite systemized.
So when you get, as an agency owner, when you get a new lead come in, what sort of process do you have in that pre-sales stage to actually say, well, this is the value we can provide? I mean, what could you, without going into too much detail, what does that look like?
Yeah, very like top level overview. I mean, like a typical inquiry that comes through our website. So we've got probably the main thing that we push people towards is we've got a get a quote section on the website, and it probably takes someone 5 minutes to fill in. So if someone calls and says, I want to speak to someone about SEO, first thing we do is say, can you fill this form in? It's as straightforward as that. And then it'll basically get all the information in terms of obviously who they are, what type of search terms they think they want to rank for, who the competitors are, what other marketing activities are they carrying out? Have they invested in SEO previously? If so, can you detail what that is? You can even attach a previous report or whatever that is. So we'll go away, we'll get the website. We won't have access to any of their analytics at this point. It'll just be, obviously, we'll have the URL so we can obviously put it in third-party software, Ahrefs, SEMrush, whatever you choose. We'll put it in there. We'll go away and pretty much identify gaps in what they've been doing previously. And right away, what we would typically do as a team, literally to begin with, before we actually give them a call back about it or actually reach out to them, is we'll spend 15 minutes on it. And, most good SEOs that have been around the block will be able to pick holes in websites. And we basically go to them with top level overview. It might be that, things I'm seeing all the time at the minute is people using ChatGPT to write the content. They might have actually had their own marketing team writing content and they're uploading it to the blog, and the same words are coming up that you see on ChatGPT all the time. So they're instant things you look at. Obviously, if we literally had one the other day which is got absolutely smashed by the helpful content updates at the back end of last year. So it's just picking out pain points, and obviously that's to say our process right away. Here's what we spotted. Bit of an overview as to how we could improve it. We'll just jump on a call with them and say, look, this type of campaign, we'll give them 2 different options. So we'll say this could be, more of a consultancy type approach where it is we can advise on what needs to be done, or it can kind of, be a managed service where we can do your content writing, we can do your digital PR, do all your technical SEO, all that type of stuff together. So we'll give them 2 different options. Which one, and give them a very broad ball. When I say broad ballpark, it's from a local campaign can be from $1,000 a month up to $5,000 a month. Literally, that's how broad we'll do it. Obviously, be based on their industry. So if it's a local plumber who wants to rank for a Liverpool keyword, it's obviously going to be towards the lower end. Whereas if it's an accountancy firm that wants to rank in multiple locations, it'll obviously be towards the higher end. So we'll go back to them, ballpark figure. They'll obviously come back to us. We'll jump on a call. They'll answer that the question. So if they even know they've been hit by an update, or they even know that they have these issues on the website, sometimes they might try and explain themselves as to this is what the previous agency said, this is what they didn't do, and you start to get them types of answers out of them, so you can get an understanding and start to paint a picture of what's been done previously. And once we start to paint that picture, we know what's been done previously. We know what they're, essentially annoyed with, why they're potentially looking at moving to another agency, or why they need an SEO agency in the first place. And we've got an understanding of what their outcome is, because they've then sent us that they want to rank for these keywords. They've sent over competitors that we can see are doing quite well on the search engines, and we can kind of dissect their strategy as well. So once we've got all that information, we can then obviously go away, create a proposal based off that. And it will literally be, we'll go away, and when we create a proposal and, we know that it's, a genuine need, we go quite in depth. So we give them an overview of the type of content that we'd be writing for them, titles, what the volume of content would have to be, whether we're writing it for them, whether they're writing it for themselves. Obviously, if digital PR or link building forms part of the strategy, we'll give some ideas in terms of the type of stuff that we can do for them. If it's a local campaign, obviously, and they haven't done citations or the GMB type stuff, we'll detail what that looks like and what type of impact that could have on the business based off similar campaigns that we've worked on previously. And obviously, from a technical SEO point of view, we don't go too in depth to begin with. We obviously look at, stuff that we've seen across websites previously. So, as an example, we literally uncovered an issue the other day, which was a client had the whole navigation menu was no followed. And I was just like, how's this happened? And it's that's something that, you don't necessarily look for, because you don't expect it to be the case. And then we, actually SEMrush identified that for us. So, normally when I look at auditing websites, obviously, your automated tools, your Screaming Frog, your SEMrush, your Sitebulb, your Ahrefs, these do pull out insights, but a lot, 90% of it's gibberish. It doesn't really make a difference, in my opinion. It's obviously, it's important that you do have a clean slate and as much of that's covered as possible. But is most of it going to move the needle? Whereas SEM was flagged up as a warning that all these links are no followed. I was like, Jesus Christ. So it's looking out for stuff you see all the time, and we'll detail them in the proposal. And then obviously we'll get the proposal over to the clients. As I mentioned earlier, we'll give the client an estimation in terms of, if we work on this campaign for 6 months, we do all this work, these are deliverables you're going to get for 6 months. We predict the campaign to be here. This is what I can do to your traffic. If it's an e-commerce client, we can give them an indication of what I could do to sales as well if they've got previous history. Obviously, B2B is obviously a lot more difficult than that as part of the sales process. But we will basically give the clients all of that information, and we'll say, look, these are the different options. Do you want to move ahead with it? And it's, hopefully I haven't gone too in depth, but that's pretty much our process.
Yeah, that was a fantastic explanation on that. But a lot of the chats I have with SEOs, it's mainly down to, understanding what they can do to move the business needle forward. It's just a matter, rather than saying, I've said, why are you spending 3 days fixing this when it's not really, it's nice to do. I'm not saying it's not nice to do, but it won't actually move the business needle forward or the goals or objectives of the campaign. And I think not just in agency world, in freelance world, I see this a lot where there's a lot of time and money being wasted on doing nice things that are nice to be done, but it won't necessarily move that business forward. And from your perspective, the way you explained it, you do look at the priority of what you need to do based on, the goals and impact you need to generate.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the important thing. I think, as I said, I think I mentioned it earlier, clients do want deliverables. So if you to say to a client, I want to spend half an hour on technical SEO, and that technical SEO is fixing broken links, some of them might have an impact, some of them might not have an impact. It obviously depends how powerful them pages are. So you do have to give the client some sort of deliverable. When it actually comes to proposing it to them, as I said, it's got to be prioritized. When we're actually going away and creating that document, it is like, the vast majority of the stuff that we're doing on there is, when we detail fixes, if it's someone's been hit by the helpful content audit, updates, it's like, actionable steps as to what we're going to actually do to fix that. Don't get me wrong, we've picked up campaigns previously where things actually haven't been going that bad. It might be that they had an in-house SEO person that's decided to, move somewhere else, and they've been doing a good job, or they might have started their own agency, whatever that is, or they might have had someone do SEO a few years ago and they decided to go all in on paid ads and now they're back into SEO. And, we do pick up campaigns sometimes, and it's like, what do we actually need to do here? Does content need to be refreshed? Do we even need to add any more content to this? Do we need to build any more links? Literally, it's sometimes we do pick up on campaigns, and it's a little bit like you do have to. We will have to say to the clients, look, this is what we're proposing to do. This might not actually get the impact that you're expecting it to have, and I think you've just got to be upfront and honest with it. That's the right way to be.
Yeah, I think I'm receiving at the moment quite a few advisory requests from companies who's either working with an agency or has worked with an agency. And I'm not saying the agency's done a bad job. Basically, they might have, doubled the organic traffic. Brilliant. But the business owner or the director CEO are just saying, it's not generating any more revenue. They've done all these things, and I can't say they've done a bad job because, they've obviously created value and everything, but it's just not, I can't justify it to my financial director. They spend, and that kind of approach, and I think, in the SEO world, that's where we need to be thinking, from the financial point of view, because if you're an agency, say you're charging $5,000 a month or whatever, and that $5,000 a month isn't actually providing a financial return on profit, well, where's the money going to come from to pay you in the future?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it is one of them. I think, when you are, let's say you're an SEO, when I worked at other agencies, I'll be honest, I had no clue. Unless it was an e-commerce campaign, you could see it in Google Analytics or, within Shopify, whatever it is, or Magento. Unless you could see the analytics, you wouldn't really know the type of impact that it has, the work that you're doing. You see the keyword rankings are improving. You see the website's ranking for more keywords, the website's getting more traffic. That's it. And that's the thing. And I think when you're working, at an agency that's delivering it, you can become complacent. I think that's, that is the thing. But I think as, my agency's developed, I've got a really good head of SEO who understands the commercial side of SEO. She's on top of that. A lot of my, other members of the team aren't necessarily that skilled, but they're starting to understand it because of her. Me, and probably our client manager who speaks to the clients, on a regular basis, sometimes, some cases, speak to clients on a weekly basis, every couple of days. They will tell us how things are going. Whereas, the team that are on the ground floor that are writing content or, building links, doing these PR campaigns, you don't really understand it. So I think, and because I'm from an SEO background and I'm now, a business owner, I'm not just plugging SEO onto other services. I do understand that. I do understand that, the return you get from it. And as I said, don't get me wrong, we have got some campaigns we work on that are difficult to track. If it's for example, we work in the drug and alcohol rehabilitation space. So we've got, a few sites in that industry. That can be very difficult to track if the client isn't reporting everything back to us because, most of that industry is built up from phone calls. And it's not like someone decides over the phone there and then they're going to spend, $8,000 to go into rehab. It's a process. And that's quite an old industry as well. Whereas, e-commerce brands, they're on it. They know if a blog post that we wrote is generating revenue for them. We've got a few accountants that we work with, and you'd think that they'd be the ones that are on it financially. And it's like, look, and I'll sit down with them and they'll say, what's this? What's you're focused on writing blog posts. What's this done in terms of the impact? And we'll say, look, these blog posts have generated, 4 callback requests over the past week. What have we done with them leads? And they don't know themselves. And someone else has spoke to them, but they haven't put on the CRM system. So I think with, e-com campaigns, it's easy to track. B2B campaigns, local campaigns, you have got to be reliant on the client as well, that they're giving you accurate data. Even our website generates a lot of, inbound leads because we rank for a lot of the local keywords, agency type keywords. Am I tracking it as well as I tell my clients that they should be? Probably not. Because I know it's just SEO that we're sending to the website. But, probably should be using that as an example.
Yeah, I know other agency owners who basically tell me they don't really care about how much traffic or what's ranking. Yeah. They just monitor the leads and the quality of the leads because that's what matters to them. Obviously all this stuff over here is being done, but they don't really go into it and monitor that, because they monitor what's going to push their agency forward. And I think what you were saying there, that some people in the team don't understand the business aspect. Well, they don't really need to. Yeah. I mean, you can't expect somebody to come in who dedicated to writing content to have a full commercial background. Obviously, they need to understand the impact from that content they need to generate, but I don't think that everyone in an agency needs to know that or have that understanding. Because as an agency owner, that's your job to make sure the senior team puts everything together so that will impact.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's a very good point. I think with agencies that do specialise in one area, I think they do have that luxury of it. Whereas I think we talked about it earlier. Your agencies, your full service agencies that might pull in different areas of marketing at certain points. It's like if they've just got like a few SEO consultants working on it, they're not really going to track the impact directly of SEO. I think that's one thing that can 100% be improved because, what are they reporting on? Are they reporting on traffic? Are they reporting on keyword rankings? I mean, that's all good, well and good doing that. But, when it comes to, if it's a 12-month campaign, the end of the 12 months, and, you've got the MD asking the marketing manager who's dealing with the campaign, what money is this generated for us? And they haven't been reporting on it, it can leave people looking stupid.
Yeah, but it all comes down into what exactly are the expectations and what have you promised, and that's the, and two, well, the goals and expectations versus the budget, it's just like a thing that goes up and down. Obviously, if the budget isn't in line with the goals and expectations, then either the expectations has to reduce or the budget goes up. And it's just that communication. And I think a lot of issues arise between client and agency because of that communication upfront level.
Yeah, that's it. I think it is, and especially in the agency where, if you've got a lot of different clients as well, I think sometimes conversations with clients can be tiring as well. Like they can. Sometimes I particularly remember when I first started out, and when I was very keen to impress, and very keen to impress. It was obviously during COVID, so it was at a time where people, before people got the bounce back loans, people were looking at reducing the budgets on marketing, and it was almost sometimes you'd put off difficult conversations, and you'd think, working as a field, I just think I'm just going to get this person results no matter what, because I want this reputation that delivered good results for them, and it happens. Like you've probably got to do that when you're starting off an agency. You've got to, 100%. You've got to give more than you're getting. That's probably one of the things that have probably got us, to where we are now. But it does get to a point where you can't constantly, the way I look at it is, I always used to think just, always over deliver. Now I look at it as like, just do what you say you're going to do. And that's enough for most people. Literally do what you say you're going to do. And it's, if you've got that reputation of saying, do what you say you're going to do, you're not doing it at the detriment of anybody else.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing. It's do what you say you're going to do, but be in a position where you can prove you've done what you say you're going to do as well. And I think, there's a sector in the industry that's literally gone to SEO productization, because then there's no comeback on anything. They're not promising anything. Someone's buying X and they're delivering X, so they've got what they paid for. And I think that model I'm seeing to open up a lot more in agency world as well.
Yeah. No, that's it. I think it's all about expectations. I think, when it is agency, you are, you're working with businesses, you are, you actually always promise no result, but you're painting the picture of a result. And I think if you're clear and upfront, so as I said, part of our process is, our sales process is, look, this is what traffic could look like. But it's like, it's how you get there, it's how you display it, it's how you communicate to clients, and that's obviously the important thing. And I think obviously different clients, when you grow an agency, you will encounter different clients as well. So we've got clients that we've been working with since our infancy, and don't ever really speak to them. Literally, it is, they get a report, they're dead happy with the reports, they rank top for a lot of keywords, and say they're the best types of clients to have, the most profitable types of clients to have, not necessarily the best types of clients to have. But then you've got, the clients, as we've started to take on bigger businesses, ones that, might have an internal SEO person themselves. They're the ones that are trying to learn from us as well. So it's not just about the results. It becomes about the knowledge of the team as well. And they're getting stuff, not just, it might be that in 12 months' time, then types of clients aren't working with us because they've learned everything they can and learn from us. And now they're going to grow their own internal SEO team. And I suppose that's something you've just got to deal with when you're an agency owner.
Yeah, definitely. It's the growth trajectory. I mean, you've put your heart and soul into growing, helping a business to grow, to lose them. I mean, it's not realistic for an agency to retain 100% of the clients. It's just not. I've never heard any agency do that. So the lifespan of a client, has to be taken into consideration on that. But when it comes to the future of agency world, where do you think the future of agency world is heading?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because I've kind of been projecting, as a company, what our goals are for like the next couple of years. And we've obviously had the growth that we've had, which has obviously been really good. But now I've started to look at, I've started to look at what the next couple of years look like, and we've started to explore trends and started to see what I've started to see, not just obviously with our own type of business, but what I'm seeing a lot of other agency owners talk about themselves is, I think the specialist agencies, the ones that specialize in certain areas. So, it's interesting because I'm sat here saying it as an agency owner that, probably our speciality is, taking local campaigns and then turning them national. So taking local type businesses to national type businesses, then types of campaigns. But we don't necessarily say we specialize in one area of SEO. So whether it's, your digital side, your content writing, your technical side, I do think that the bigger businesses now, the ones with the big chunky budgets, they're the ones that are going to start just saying, right, I just need a technical SEO agency. I just need a digital, and I've started to see that already, or I just need a content agency. And I've started to see a bit of a shift towards that when I've been speaking to people as well, where like when we've had inbound leads come in, people have said, I don't necessarily need that other stuff doing because I've got a developer who's took care of all technical stuff previously, or they already have their own in-house content writer, or they've got a PR company that's doing digital PR for them. So I think I can imagine there's got to be a lot more collaboration with other teams. I think, at the minute, our campaigns will collaborate with, if they've got a social media team, we'll send them content that we've been writing and they'll get it, shared, they'll run ads on it, that type of stuff for PR. If we do like a digital PR campaign, that'll then be amplified through social media, that type of stuff. Same with email marketing campaigns. But it's very rare that we're kind of collaborating with other experts in the SEO industry. I've got a feeling that's going to start to happen in the future.
Yeah, I have seen quite a few specialised agencies, seeing a growth in that. So literally, but the way that it goes about, they said, well, we can't be held responsible if we only taking care of one piece of the jigsaw. You can't come to us and say, look, you're responsible for this, because it is a collaboration of every piece of the puzzle. And I think once you start dealing with specialised agencies, it is more of you're buying a sort of product, a service, we'll pay you to fix the technical SEO on the site, and that's what we've done, and without the actual, responsibility that goes behind it, because you can't have an agency be made responsible for things that's not in their control. And I think if you're only taking care of one certain aspect of the whole SEO bubble, you cannot be held responsible. Obviously, agencies that see a massive spike, they'll take, that credit, but, but not the overall responsibility. And I think that, as you said, it's just plugging different aspects in from all different places. But realistically, they all have to get on and trust each other to, communicate that.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm as I said, I'm starting to see that myself, and I think things are heading in that 100%. I think it's not because Google's changing as a search engine. It might not even be Google in 10 years' time. There might be another search engine. Obviously, younger people are using TikTok. I see a lot of studies about people saying TikTok's become the biggest search engine. Don't necessarily agree with that. Because obviously it's different types of searches. But it's, I think search engines are going to change, search engines are going to develop. Obviously, you look at, AI tools are becoming search engines, obviously SGE. I mean, that just opens up another can of worms, which I'm sure you don't want to talk about right now. But I think it's going to be about, I think if, not necessarily putting your eggs all in one basket, but I think it is going to be, there's going to be lots of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of things that are coming up where, if you've got content heavy strategies, they can work, or you've got PR heavy strategies, they can work. And I just think that's the way I think a lot of businesses are looking at things now.
Yeah, I do think it's about understanding what works for what platform. Like, I know businesses that are doing extremely well through TikTok SEO, but it's a certain type of business, that works very well for them, but not necessarily will work well for these over here, and I think it's that understanding of, from a business perspective, where you need to focus your time moving forward. And I think as an agency, it's understanding all these different aspects. And it's not the same as it was years ago, where you say, yeah, we've done that for that, it'll work for you.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, nailed it. I think it's at the minute you look at SEO agencies and you do say, look, you automatically associate that with Google. But you also assume, like, we've got clients at the minute who think we can help them with the podcast on YouTube that they've done. And don't get me wrong, we probably could. Are we set up to do it? Probably not. So it is, and it's the same with TikTok. Like, you hear about TikTok SEO, the client says, "Can you do TikTok SEO?" And I think that this is where the specialists are going to crop up. And they might not necessarily be big agencies, but there'll be small specialist agencies that can clear up in their space, or it might have a shorter lifespan than a traditional SEO agency, because once people move off that platform, they can't still be a specialist in it.
Yeah. Now, is there anything that we haven't already spoken about that you feel that the audience really needs to know?
To be honest, I think I think we've covered a lot of different points here. I think from an agency world, I think anyone who's in the agency world or looking to get into the agency world, I think there's some gems there for them from both of us.
Definitely. And what sort of conversations would you like to have, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I think going forward, I think probably the best place for me to get in contact with me is either LinkedIn, so be obviously type in my name, Liam Quirk, or Twitter, so it's Quirky SEO. So if you type that in, they're the best places, anything to do with SEO.
Brilliant. Well, Liam, many thanks for your time today.
Yeah, perfect. Cheers, mate. Thank you.